Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Last month was my birthday, and so for my birthday celebrations with my friends, I decided to do the Scramble Scramble art assignment. I will have a link to the art assignment video so you guys can check that out and see what I'm talking about. I've been watching the art assignment since it basically started and I love it so much, but I've never actually participated in any of the assignments before. I don't consider myself to be a very artistic person. I don't have very strong drawing skills, or even crafting skills isn't really my strong suit. But when I saw this one that was all about a dinner party, I was like, yes, this is one I can do. So one of the great things about birthdays is that you can force all your friends to do the thing that you want to do. So that's basically what I did with my art assignment. A couple of weeks beforehand, I sent out an evite to my friends, inviting them over to my house for dinner. And in the evite, I ended up describing what the Scramble Scrabble dinner was, or Scrabble Scramble dinner. I'm gonna mix that up the entire video, just know that. I laid out the instructions as given in the video, and I also left links to the response videos done by the art assignment, as well as another one I found on YouTube. So that way people had a general idea of what I was talking about, because just reading the instructions, it can get a little bit confusing. And even when my friends showed up on that night, they were still a little bit confused as to what we were going to be doing. They had questions about how this was going to work, and obviously I happily explained it all to them. One of the directions in the art assignment video is to invite about 6 people over for dinner at most. I think they say 2 to 6 people. I ended up having around 8 or 10 people at my dinner, and there's definitely a reason to have that limit of people, because when there are too many people, it starts to get a little bit crazy and a little bit hectic. But we were able to make it work, and my friends were all just completely game for this. So I told my friends ahead of time about this, obviously, and so I told them to also be brainstorming their food and word ideas ahead of time, which I think was really smart because we were working on a limited time. We were doing it all in one single night. So I told them to have the food ideas ready ahead of time so that way we can kind of just jump into the Scrabble portion of the game. So I went to my local fabric store and I bought fabric, and then I had Sharpies and Sharpie pens and cloth pens already on hand, and for my sister. Also, we kind of cheated a little bit and used a Scrabble word generator on the internet to come up with slightly more exotic words that we might not have been able to think of ourselves, which I think helped us at least come up with more interesting food ideas. I think in the beginning everyone was a little bit hesitant about what to do. People felt like there was a lot of pressure on them. They didn't want to quote unquote ruin a dish, which I kept explaining that it wasn't really possible to ruin a dish. That being said, our first word scramble that we put together was a little bit weird and we decided to scratch that one. I think we ended up doing a decent amount of scrambles. We did 7 or 8 of them, and then I think we ended up making about 4 or 5 dishes. We brainstormed ideas of what each Scramble could be, or what each Scrabble dish could be, and then all together as a group we decided on which ones we were actually going to make. So what we ended up doing is we had our 4 different dishes, and then we broke off into groups, and each group was in charge of a dish, and then we went to the grocery store and then came back to my house and cooked everything all together, which was really fun. I really like cooking with my friends. That's something that we've done on multiple occasions. In the past, we had a chili cook-off for my birthday one year, and that ended up being a completely epic birthday just because people got really into the competition aspect of it, which is another thing about this assignment. I had to keep explaining to my friends that this wasn't a competition, it was a collaboration. Another thing I realized that just worked best for my group of friends, in the art assignment they tell you to push the limits a little bit and to put words together that don't necessarily work well together. That's what we did in our first dish, or the first Scramble that we did together, but for me and my friends it didn't really work very well because we just looked at all of those word combinations and we were just we have no idea what this would even be. Maybe we're not creative enough, maybe it was just the time constraint didn't really help either. We knew that there were certain things that we just weren't going to have the time to put together. So I think that if you do it the way the art assignment did it in their response video, where they play the game one day and then have the dinner another day, it'll give you more time to be more creative with the dishes. But because we were on a little bit of a constraint, we had to be slightly more traditional with our dishes, and we were actually working together to figure out which words from each other's names we could actually put together to make a dish that we would actually be able to make. So in the end, we had baked brie with raspberry jam, drizzle with honey. We made a pizza with mozzarella, sausage, basil, I believe. And then we had macaroni and cheese with green chilies and bacon. And then we had, for dessert, like Samoa bars. Basically they're like 7-layer bars, but they put in like Samoa cookies as well as like coconut and some other things in there. It was really delicious. We all went into like a straight up food coma afterwards because there was a lot of like heavy dishes. We decided that next time we need to work some vegetables into our dishes so that way we wouldn't just be like straight up carbs and cheese the whole time. Not that we're really complaining. I mean, carbs and cheese are delicious, but some veggies would have been nice. I also still have my tablecloth from the night. I actually want to do something with this. You can see like our names. You can see hopefully some of the dishes that we drew on here. And I think I want to like frame it and like hanging it up somewhere in my room because this was like my birthday thing and I think it would be really nice to remember this night with my friends. And luckily I have really great friends who are willing to just, you know, go all in for these like weird ideas that I have every year for my birthday. So yeah, feel free to leave any comments or questions that you have down in the comment section below. I highly recommend doing this. There was one video that I saw where it's just like two people, a couple who did this together for their dinner date one night. But I think this is a really fun art assignment that I think is doable by anyone because you don't have to be too crazy about it, like in terms of going all out there with your food dishes. And I think it's just like a fun way to do dinner that is a little bit different than the way you might typically do dinner. So yeah, that's all I have for now and thanks for watching.